بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. So last time we had spoken about Imam Bukhari and how did we get here? So Imam Bukhari, at what stage of compilation was he? Rahimahullah. He was during the golden age. And we said, why was it considered the golden age of the Sunnah? Or why was it considered the golden age of Tadween or compilation? No. So Imam Bukhari, he died 256. So he was much after, because we said the last that's probably the last tabi'i. So why was Imam Bukhari's Sahih considered to be part of the golden age? What is a golden age? There's a lot of preservation that happened. Okay. That's all you got? So we said that the vast majority of compilation happened when? During this era, right? This is why it's considered the golden age. So if you look at the vast majority of hadith compilation, it actually happened at this time. Meaning that if there's a hadith that was recorded, the chances of it passing this stage is what? It's like very slim. It's very slim that it would pass this stage. So when we talk about this era, there's a reason that we mention it very specifically, and that the vast majority, or the hadith encyclopedia, has already been compiled up until this point. So what are some things that you guys remember about Imam al-Bukhari? He came from a wealthy family. Okay. What do you mean by that? And why is that important? Right, he squandered his inheritance. Yes? That's a bad way of putting it? Squandering is not a good word, right? So, but he used his entire inheritance to what? So where is he using the money? Traveling, right? So he used a lot of his money in traveling, right? Because getting around during that time, it wasn't easy or cheap. So he, rahimahullah, he traveled quite a bit. He traveled a lot, going around. I think I have a map. I didn't share with this map with you guys last time, but basically, he, rahimahullah, this is some of the travels that he did. So just so you guys have an idea of what's going on here, this is Bukhara. So you guys know what sea this is? Huh? You're right. It's the No, not you. This is the Caspian Sea. You ever seen that guy on TikTok where he just like says yes to everybody who answers the questions? He's like, what country is Hawaii? And the guy was like, California. He's like, yes. Right. So here's Bukhara. Bukhara. This is the Caspian Sea. Right. This is the Caspian Sea. You guys, if you guys are a little bit familiar with that. So these are all like I'm sorry. Yeah, so like Azerbaijan and stuff is like, you know, they're like I think they're above the Caspian Sea. Yeah, so you're talking about Kazakhstan, like all of those other countries are over there. So this is modern day Saudi. This would be like Kuwait. Over here would be Iraq. This would be Iran. Good. And this would be modern day what? Before you went too far, yeah, Fahmi. Before that would be what? Afghanistan, right? So this is Afghanistan, and then over here was Pakistan, and then above this, I think today is Uzbekistan, right? Yeah, Uzbekistan is north of Afghanistan. So he started here. So right, Imam al-Bukhari, he started here. He also died here outside of Samarkand, right? So Samarkand was here. He died a little bit outside of it, but these are all of the different places that he traveled to. He traveled near Tus. Tus, very famously, was the birthplace of Muhammad al-Ghazali, right? So his class will be, inshallah, after Isha. And then he continued on, right? So he went to Naysabur, he went to Khurasan, he went to Ray, right? Over here, I'm sorry? So no, Ghazali was Farsi. So this entire area, so basically Afghanistan, it cuts like that, right? So Afghanistan like kind of cuts like this, and Iran, it's kind of like that. So Tus is where Imam Ghazali was from. Above Tus, you have the place called Nasa, which will be an Imam that comes later, and that is Imam al-Nasa'i. And then so he traveled here, right? So he went to Baghdad. Baghdad, he met very famous teachers there. From them, from Imam Ahl Sunnah, Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, rahimahullah wa radiya an. From there, he went to Basra, right? Basra and Kufa. These were two, what do they call them? Like outposts. There were two outposts in the initial Muslim empire. Basra was one of them. And then from there, he went to Dimashq. From Dimashq, he went to Quds, which is Bayt al-Maqdis, Jerusalem. And then here, Fustat. Fustat is like, so this is about as far as like Egypt went. It didn't really go too far than that. But if we look at Imam Ahmad, he actually travels out further. And then Imam Ahmad is probably the most prolific traveler out of all of the Imams. And then here he ends up in Medina Munawwara. In Medina Munawwara, we said that there are two major works that he had worked on when he was there. His Sahih, right, and his Tariq, right. So there are two major works that he had. He had his Sahih, and there's a narration of him praying 2 rak'ah before every bab, right. So every time he put a chapter heading, he would pray 2 rak'ah, showing that his traveling to gather the Hadith, it didn't necessarily happen here. All right, because he died here, so he obviously didn't stay in Medina, right? So he didn't stay in Medina. Rahimahullah wa radiya an. Any questions on Imam Bukhari? No. So, like we said, that he was an orphan. He inherited quite a bit of money from his father. He spent all of it seeking knowledge, and obviously he was very well traveled. So that took a lot of his money. He had a couple students, or one or two, that would be with him from time and again. There are different stories about him, rahimahullah. Yes. He was born here in Bukhara. So I don't know if there's a city that's still there. I know that his tomb is in Samarkand, which is like in Iran. Actually, I think all of is it Uzbekistan? No, it's in Uzbekistan. You're right. It's in Uzbekistan. Sorry.
You can actually
Yes.
go on. They have the maqbara.
Yeah, like it's like a dariha. Yeah, it's like what do you call it? It's like a tomb that you can go to. So it's there. Like he didn't die too far from there. Like the reason that he didn't go back to his hometown is because we had talked about, like, this was during the era of the Mihna. So what happened was that you had a lot of the Mu'tazili. They were in control of the government, and their big issue was what? All right, the Khalq Quran issue. That, the Quran is something that is created, and they just kind of made it a state policy, and they wanted to enforce this on everyone. And Imam Bukhari, how did he deal with the Khalq Quran issue? Right, he wrote a book called Khalq Af'al al-Ibad. Yeah, so he says, my recitation of the Quran is actually created. And how did they like that answer? They didn't really like it they didn't really like that answer too much. So what happened was that he was actually, but who didn't like this answer? So the government was just like, you know what I mean? Like they were kind of looking at him sideways. But who really didn't like the answer? Not the Khalifa.
He's one of the teachers.
So he actually wasn't alone. But who else? Yeah, Dhuhli. So you actually had a number of scholars, right? So what happened was that as he moved back toward Bukhara, because he was like, okay, well, I'm getting kicked out of these different places. Let me head back home. All right, let me go back home. And what happened was that he was kicked out of